Assalamualaikum. Apa khabar?
Sehat, Alhamdulillah. Tan Sri sihat, okey?
Oh, I got my booster yesterday.
Alhamdulillah. Okey, lengan tak sakit, Tan Sri?
Ha?
Lengan tak sakit?
Lengan tak sakit, badan sakit-sakit.
Oh, ya ke? Tak demam
malam tadi badan sakit-sakit. So, I hope today dia okey lah kot. Badan dah tua kan. So, this one is for whom, Nur K?
We invite all academic administrators, academic staff, admin semualah, Tan Sri.
Okay. So, I'll take about 1 hour and then we have discussion kalau if there is some discussion lah kot. But this is a continuation from Kuantan tau.
Okay.
A detail from Kuantan.
Alright.
Pasal Kuantan tu, I was told ramai yang tak join di Gombak. I'm not too sure betul tak betul.
Okay, Tan Sri, if you are ready, let me welcome you first.
I am ready, yes.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahillazi hadana li hadza wa ma kunna linahtadiya laula an hadana Allah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Datuk Zulkifli Abdul Razak, Rector of International Islamic University Malaysia, IIUM University Management Committee, IIUM Deans and Directors, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters of IIUM community. So let us begin our program by reciting Ummul Kitab Al-Fatihah.
A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in.
So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. And with great pleasure, I welcome all of you to the first Leadership Series 2022 organized by the Management Services Division IIM. And today we have with us IIM Rector Yang Berbahagia Prof. Emeritus Tan Sri Zulkifli Abdul Razak with a very interesting topic that is showcasing 40 ideas for 40th anniversary, Tan Sri. So, as you know, we are going near to the year 2023, a momentous year in which IIM will be celebrating our 40th anniversary since our inception in 1983. Alhamdulillah, so Tan Sri, you have chosen a very timely topic today for us to listen to. We are currently, Tan Sri, we are also streaming live in Zoom webinar and MSD Competency Development YouTube channel. We have quite a number of spectators in this early morning. So everyone, all attendees, please be reminded to also time in your attendance. And we thank you once again for your willingness to join us today. So ladies and gentlemen, so moving forward, we now are to meet the man of the hour, Tan Sri Zul, IIUM Rector, will now deliver his talk. Tan Sri, over to you. Please welcome.
Thank you, Tira. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu syafil anbiya mursalin sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. La haula wala quwwata illa billah. Brothers and sisters, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Indeed, it is a great pleasure to speak to you again on something that is very relevant to the university regarding our movement forward in the year 2023 as we celebrate the 40th anniversary of the university. I've been talking about this for a long time because I thought we need some preparation, not so much the physical preparation, but more the mental preparation. The mental preparation meaning to say, what is it that we want to do together as a community, and what is it that you want to quote unquote showcase to the world. My own conviction after being with you for 3 to 4 years now, I see there are many things that we can put on the table for others to sample and to see, to basically understand why IIUM is a different university. This is something that we have been talking about, but I think we have not quote unquote put it on a pedestal that this university is like no other, it's different, and therefore the difference is the one that we're going to celebrate in the 40th anniversary. So what I intend to do in this hour or 45 minutes or so is to recap what we have done. In fact, this is a detailed version of the Kuantan aliquot that I gave to zoom down as to what are the 40 things that we think it is important for us. And then that will be a source of a discussion, hopefully, across kuliah, across mahala, and across whatever other platform we have, working with one another rather than remaining siloed the way we used to do before this. So if I can share my slides, never know how to do this. So there are many things that is happening now. We started, of course, with leading the way as our tagline in the year 2019, and I think that has taken up very nicely in the sense that we talk about the four khair, which is Khalifah, Amanah, Iqraq, and Rahmatan lil Alamin. And in that sort of platform, we are able to demonstrate what is it that we want to do. So some of the things that you see here, the UNESCO chair, and the Greater Gombak, these are sort of a recognition that people give the university. It is not so much this recognition that I am into, but I just want to give us a sense of confidence and a sense of relevance. If some of these things that we do, people recognize, maknanya we are in the right track. You know, people are looking, people are trying to understand, people are also trying to, some of them work with us as close as possible in the kind of things that we do. So it is an indication, it's almost like a lighthouse, whether this lighthouse shines the way and people come and flock and see what is it that what we should do. Whether it is something that we will do forever, I think it's something for us to decide after this. So now leading the way, from my point of view, when I look around, I think some of the things that we do are exceptionally good, and therefore we need to expand it. We need to expand it, and this is where I think leading the world come into picture. Yeah, the globe before this was a rather a fuzzy and fast-moving globe. We want to put the globe in its proper perspective, the movement and so on and so forth. It's just a symbol that we need to put everything right. And how do you do this? Again, we come back to what this university is all about. Now, some of these ideas is the idea that comes from you when we go down to the kuliah or to the mahala and see what is it that you want to do, and we discuss it, and then we pick it up, and this will be some of it that I will present to you today. So this leading the world to me is a serious business. In other words, we want to showcase that this university has got its own potential, and this potential is the one that's going to make the difference as we celebrate the 40th anniversary. If I were to give a kind of a quick rundown, what we did in last year, we can see all this. I think you are familiar with some of it, starting, I think, very early with a Vision 2040, and then ending up with some other accolades that we've got from RCE and so on and so forth. Yeah. So this, I think, will be the highlight that I think I want to put on show. Some of this, I think, are basically what I call the world first. All right. So all these red dots, from my point of view, are something that the university has got it for the first time, be it in Malaysia, be it regionally, or be it on the world stage itself. For example, the green gown activities for what you call sustainable development, right? And then we have got the UNESCO chair, and then we have all these other activities that we've got in terms of trying to do this hybrid, flexible way, trying to adjust ourselves as far as the COVID-19 is concerned. And then again, if you look at the acknowledgement flagship, these are the sustainable activities that are given to us as far as the flagship is concerned. And of course, we also have got this special award as far as energy performance is concerned. What I'm trying to do here, basically, there are many things that we do, and some of it actually attracts attention and make it, as far as university is concerned, something that we can push on in trying to make it real by the year 2023. So some of this, I think I want you to take heart. There are many more we want to create for the year 2022, and so that this will go on to the year 2023 as part and parcel of that celebration. We are going to do this quite different. Some people, when they do the celebration, they will say, celebrating excellence, celebrating quality. We do not want to do that. We say, these are the 40 things and you decide. where is the excellence, where is the quality, and how is it that we can merge this together so that we can have a bigger sort of impact rather than just one project or one sort of activities for the 40th anniversary. Now, I want to use this word reckoning to give a kind of a seriousness. At the end of the day, we need to show people what we have done. And this is what my request to you. What is it that we have done? Have you documented? Because all this documentation becomes an important thing to account for. The reckoning at the end of the day, we have done this, so where are the evidence and so on and so forth. I think part of the activities that we are trying to do was basically to look at that. Yeah. Where is the documentation? Is it in the IT? Is it well balanced? How it is balanced? And all this, I think we will have to sort of account for, so that the impact is really very, very clear as far as what we do in trying to achieve the activities that we've got for the 40th anniversary. So this word reckoning, I think it's not new. At the end of the day, whatever we do, we need to have this reckoning and find out whether what we have done is basically as per what we have set ourselves to do, university be it, kuliah be it, or individual as far as that is concerned. Now, I want to go back to this memory of mine when I came to the university in August 2018 in the mosque. Somebody came and asked me, what have the university done for them? Yeah, dia kata 23-35 tahun universiti, kami dapat apa? I mean, this is a very pertinent question. I mean, we need to answer this question. We just can't say, no, I don't know, kind of a thing. It is not responsible that way. So I want to sort of make up to him and say, okay, I may not be able to answer you now, but can I give you the answer maybe in the year 2023? And I think this is our responsibility in the context of the reckoning. While that happens, I think in the year 2018, I think all of us probably know that we are very, very much in silos, all right? And then for the whole of 2019, we tried to work together, and this is where the flagship initiatives come in. We have a slight problem in trying to start it because people are not used to working together. But now, alhamdulillah, I think the flagship is a platform for everybody to work from wherever they come from to make the activities more cheerful and more impactful as far as that is concerned. So this is one of the major success, I thought, when we talk about the flagships, how we gel together, working together, making the university as a university that is recognized by people internationally. Now, as we learn to do this, we are tested. I want to use the word tested. We are tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whether the things that we do are really coming from the heart or just doing it for the sake of doing. So COVID-19 tells us this, whether you actually are serious about it, especially when you have this lockdown, all right? Not one lockdown, many lockdowns, okay? And we need to adjust and make sure that we live together peacefully, and we also make sure that everybody is taken care. And that's a kind of relationship I think we want to build when we talk about this flagship initiative, how we can work together and be concerned with one another as far as their well-being or the what you call the wellness is concerned. And this is something that the university is trying very hard. Yeah. So we have new habits and new normal, they call it, and suddenly we have all to wear masks, right? I think this is something. And again, then later on we work for another something which is quite unusual, sending students back in the hundreds using our ICC almost like a bus stand. All right. And these are the new experience that we learn. And I am very happy to know that everybody works together in making this a success, although we have no experience. At least I don't have experience in trying to manage issues of this nature. But 2020 will suddenly followed by 2021, where the COVID becomes a little bit more daunting. And then by then we have got these vaccines, and the vaccines are the one that actually gives us a kind of a room to move. And we got this PPV, Pusat Pemberian Vaksin, IUM, Kuantan, there's a lot we have also done here in Gombak in trying to manage the issue as far as the vaccine is concerned. Not many of us know what the vaccine is all about. There's still controversy, and until now there's still controversy because this is the only way to do it. But now we are already at a stature where people say lockdown is no longer useful. So this lockdown perhaps will not happen, hopefully, under the Omicron sort of wave that we expect to see by early next month. If that is not enough, we have got this rain coming in towards the end of last year, and this rain, I think, is another test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do you manage this? And I think this is something that, again, we somehow rather take to it like duck to water. Students organize themselves. There were buses taking them out, 700, 800, sometimes 1,000 of them going to various places, Ululangan and so on and so forth. And this is where I think the windows open. The discussion I had with the student, they find that working with the community at this particular juncture is a very rewarding thing. In other words, we are not only confined to classrooms, but we are also now moving out into the real world to solve real problems and hopefully in real time, right? That is going on, and suddenly we also back to where we were, hiring bus, sending students up and there. While we do this, suddenly we find that our own campus has got its own problem. There is, I think, in Rukaya, where there is a sinkhole, and then there is in Zubaik, there is this, what do you call, landslides. Just to let you know, I think the Kementerian has given us 4.8 million ringgit to address this, beginning hopefully next week, so that by the end of March, we get this addressed. And there is a bigger issue that we need to look at, which we are also planning with the Kementerian. So at the end of the day, all this experience, if you look at it cumulatively, makes us a better, a very more matured community. Yeah, we are now able to sort of survive by working together. We now can create our own sort of solution where we think it is important because of the experience that we've got. And this is, I think, what the pandemic has done to the university. And I hope all of you will be grateful as far as this new experience is concerned. Otherwise, we are still locked in our lecture halls and not having this new experience working with community and so on. So why do we do this? I want to go back to the very core of what we talk about. Yeah, we can do this because we've adopted this khair in a very, very systematic way. The Khalifah, the Amanah, the Iqra, and the Rahmatan lil Alamin, particularly Rahmatan lil Alamin, as you can see, there is something is not limited to a particular section or a particular geographical location. We are talking about everybody, Muslim, non-Muslim, human, non-human, everybody comes into being. So these 4 items, I think, is something that we need to keep on holding to and make it our strategy, so that at the end of the day, we come together and create a world that we all can share and become, part and parcel of the contribution that the university does as compared to other universities around the world. So what do we need to do now is basically, before we go into the 40th anniversary, to be very confident that we need to invest a lot of ideas, a lot of time, and a lot of discussion on what this hair is all about. Over time, I think this concept of hair is growing from one dimension to another dimension. And we want to take it to the world, and I think we have to have a notion of what this hair is all about. And this is where I think we need to find the context, right? If you want to go into the world, how do you try and translate this? The first thing, as far as I'm concerned, is to redefine the university. What the COVID tells me is basically the university that we know before is no longer functional. And therefore, we need to come up with a new idea of what the university is about. And this university is focused on the human being, human dignity, humanitarian values, and so on. It is human more than anything else. And that's why we take this idea of humanizing education. In other words, we want to create a better human being. It sounds easy, but I think it is not as easy until and unless the university is structured in a way that people will benefit from the kind of lessons and the kind of values that we invest in the university. So redefining the university is one of the things that I'm going to talk about when we talk about leading the world. In other words, IUM wants to redefine the university according to our own values, according to our own what you call worldview, as it were, without dislocating other people in trying to make the Rahmatan lil Alamin a workable sort of solution. Now, to do that, I think we need to look at talents. This is, I think, the most serious part. Yeah, we have to have talents, and the talents, I think, needs to jive over a certain thing that we have set ourselves to do. In other words, the talent must fit into the mission and the vision of the university. So in other words, we must know what the vision and the mission of the university is all about, and how do we actually deliver these 7 missions of ours. We will talk about it in a little while. Then we have this Maqasid Asyariah. Then we have our Falsafah Pendidikan Kebangsaan. All these are value-based, right? And it is now put in our roadmap of how to actually deliver this in conjunction with the 5 pillars of learning of UNESCO. And that is where I think we connect to the world. Otherwise, we remain within our context, and then our sort of passage to the world becomes difficult because people do not see where do we fit in this whole big picture as far as the world is concerned. So revitalizing talents to me is for us to go out and learn whatever that is important, not in the context of textbooks, but in the context of learning new experiences. Yeah? In the context of discussion, in the context of building more values that we think it is important as we move forward as far as the pandemic is concerned. Its values, from my point of view, it has to be also related to the academic culture. Because we are a university, often people look at university as a corporate body. I do not see that. I think we are not a corporate body. Our culture is a different culture. Our culture do not tolerate hierarchy, for example. Our culture is more of a flat hierarchy as much as possible. The relationship between the top management and the people down there, I think, is very, very flexible. And we can communicate over internet. We don't have to be very, formal about it. The bureaucracy does not come into the picture. And why it is so? Because then I think we can move fast to make changes within whatever culture that we are trying to promote. University, to me, is about change. If you come to the university and you do not change, or the university do not change, then I think we have missed a point. Yeah. So, but what sort of changes is something that we need to determine, and this is where the experience comes in. I think this experiential learning is something that you begin suddenly to realize that there are things out there that we need to learn because it is not part and parcel of the textbook stuff that we are so used to. So we need to learn the experiences, and these experiences give you the authority of who you are or what you want to be. If you have got an experience and somebody else have no experience of that nature, then you have got an advantage over this. Yeah? So be mindful that you want to get experience that is really very unique to yourself. Be mindful that you want this experience to be something that can contribute, yeah, to a different way of looking at things, so that we can create the change that we need according to the academic culture. Academic culture means we have to talk about accountability. Whatever you do, you have to be accountable, and I think we are told to do this. Yeah, whatever you cite, whatever you quote, there must be some sort of reference to it. Right? There's no plagiarism and so on and so forth, which I think you all know what it's all about. So to build an academic culture is something that I think we need to think about. How do you put this as part and parcel of what the university is all about? And that then will translate into the BIA, the whole ecosystem, the BIA Solihah, our garden of knowledge and virtue, the sustainable development, our culture, the intelligence that we've got, and the community that we've got. So in other words, it encompasses everything, right? So I want to look at this here, and not just within the 4 things, but how do you translate them into these 4 items of redefining the university. To redefine the university, you need to revitalize our talent. And from that talent, I think, how do you build another culture that will sustain it? And finally, I think the whole university gets involved, not only the building, but also the ecosystem, the way it is, right? So that is, to me, what is leading the way as we move, that will allow us to go into leading the world. right? So what are the things that I am thinking about when you talk about leading the world? Yeah, I want to talk about 4 things. One is I think we need to talk about nature, the natural environment. Yeah, and this is the BR that we talked about. This is part and parcel of the university. If you look at that picture there, I think there's a lot more greens than blue, right? But I don't think we are in touch with the green as much as we're in touch with the blue. So I think we need to find out what is it that we can do so that the greeneries and the sceneries that is embedding the university can also be part and parcel of what the university is all about moving forward. So nature is, I think, an important thing, especially now when you talk about sustainable development and so on and so forth, right? Now, it has to be anchored on a kind of a value, and we are now want to bring it art and culture. And I think I will describe a little bit later. How do you want to bring this is in a systematic way? So people walk through the university, they can feel the vibrancy of the culture within the university. That I think is the what you call the mural that we did for COVID. That now becomes almost to me a reminder, yeah, of what we have gone through 2 years ago. When we look at those murals, it brings back some of the things that we have gone through, and this will be, I think, a reminder for us of what we have done right and what we have not done right. Yeah. All this, as we have mentioned, it has to be contextualized in humanity, and humanity is a very broad term. And when you talk about rahmatan lil alamin, I think how do actually people benefit from this? Regardless of who they are, how do they benefit from this? Particularly people in the downtrodden, marginalized, vulnerable communities who have not had it good. It's time for them to actually have something which is quite different, and it's our responsibility to make sure that they also have this benefit at the same time. And last but not least, of course, we are all contextualized in knowledge. Yeah? What is sort of knowledge that we need to bring forward so that all these things can work together. So when I talk about nature, what is it that I'm aiming at? Yeah? My target is mission number 2, basically about change by sustainable development. And our maqasid is about the resources, the wealth, and so on and so forth. So these 2 things will be the key sort of terms that we want to look at. When we talk about resources, how do we make sure that the resources that we've got actually is in its own context without destroying it, all right? Without making it just like the river within the campus. How do you bring it back? And that is, I think, the issue that we want to talk about, so that we find that nature will be part and parcel of the resources as far as knowledge is concerned. You can learn a lot from that. In terms of culture, we talk about beliefs, we talk about values. Yeah, indeed, I think culture has got that embedded with it. What sort of values, what sort of beliefs that you have, so that these also will then jive together with the resources. In other words, the belief and the values that we've got is basically contextualized within the environment itself. And the art pieces will be the art pieces that reminds us of what nature is all about. This one is certainly very clear. Yeah, when we talk about humanity, we're talking about life. How do you preserve life? How do you promote life? How can you make life better? How can you also look at the progeny, the next group of people, the younger generation, your generation mainly? Yeah, how do you actually ensure that they have got a good future moving forward? Right? And here we talk about the number 7 when we talk about what we call deep sense of responsibility as far as the mission is concerned. Right? Number 5 talks about intercultural dialogue and intercultural understanding. And the last one, we are going to target on intellectual sort of prowess and activities that we've got. Yeah. So if you look at this, all the maqasid has been taken into consideration. All the vision of the universities are taken into consideration. So there's none that is not part and parcel of the activities that we do. Certainly, some takes a lot more because we have not been working on it. In terms of culture, for example, we have very little in terms of culture in the university, and that's why we are not trying to build it. Yeah. In terms of nature, we have got some, but there are many more things that we want to do, and how do you bring it into reality as far as working together. And certainly this humanity is a bigger issue when we talk about the COVID and whatever else that's going to come. There'll be more pandemics, and how do we actually move this together? So I want to assure you, when we talk about the 40th anniversary, it is not selective. It is not cherry picking. It's trying to put this together in a total context, that by the time we end up with the 40th anniversary, all the things that we are supposed to do to make this university a better university is accounted for. Let me try and illustrate the showcasing that I was talking to you about. Yeah, when you want to showcase nature for the 40th anniversary, there are many things I think that we have done. We have got a lot of gardens now. I'm told they've got about 17 gardens. Everybody has got their own garden near the kuliah or near the mahla, or sometimes in the balcony. Now, what we are trying to do is trying to bring this garden together so that it becomes a productive garden. In other words, it is a garden that actually gives sort of back, to the things that we have done in terms of the food, in terms of the fruits that we are trying to grow within this. People in Kuantan are more ambitious. They've got a plot of land. I was told they're going to work on the whole forest. All right, and this forest is supposed to be quote unquote a virgin forest that will have a lot more in terms of productive gardens within the campus. So we are trying to come with a master plan, how actually this garden will be part and parcel of the university. It is not something there because we have to do it, but we think it is an important element of what the university is all about. Some of them will be converted into what we call the living labs, right? Living labs, example is the Perak House in front of Kaet. In Kuantan, when we visited, there's a fantastic waterfall in one of the mahala, I think mahala Talha, if I'm not mistaken. How do you reconstruct that so that this waterfall becomes a natural environment for us to actually enjoy, rather than just leaving it the way it is? Pago has got Muara to look at. So all these are living labs that when you talk about experiences, you can go there and actually sample the experiences and learn what is it that needs to be learned from the actual activity within the so-called living labs. We've got another living labs that we are planning. This is the RCE living labs. We're looking at gender baik and trying to be productive in the sense of earning some money for the university. There are pieces of land there that has not been worked out. I think there are ideas of how to work on this. So this will be another living lab that students can go and also learn from what they can as far as the gender baik forest is concerned. Our brothers and sisters in the ICOL is talking about a global center for climate change. I think this is also very timely. And the Consumer Association of Penang is very interested to work with this because they thought climate change is something that we have not done well. So with the contribution in terms of the legal dimension, in terms of the structures that we talk about, given the global context, you may be able to create something new as far as climate change is concerned and global warming. Right? When I was in Gambang, they started a project on low carbon emission. I think the whole student population and staff population are trying to work out how to make Gambang a low carbon emission as far as the campus is concerned. This is another activity that we have done. Sustainable ecology, I think we know, we talk about the recycle, the reuse, the refuse and stuff like that. And this is the bigger picture as far as the university is looking at the whole BR and the whole nature, as it were. So these are the things that we picked up. We want to remind ourselves that the campus is a green campus. The campus is a friendly campus as far as nature is concerned, and the campus can also give a lot more knowledge when we talked about what sustainable and development is all about in the context of healthier or a safety environment. Some of this, I think we have got awards for this, and this again just to show you that we are moving into the right direction. So this is one area, I think, which is very rich, and we are now starting to move. The one that I put a tick here is something that we have started. Yeah, the red tick is something that we've gone deeper into. This one we're just starting perhaps, and the rest I think we will probably need to work on it as we go on into the 2023. Of course, that to remind you that our ecosystem may not be stable if we don't pay attention to it. The others showcasing is about art and culture. I mean, we have got this ICC, IIM Culture Center, but as far as I can see, there's very little culture in the real sense of it. Yeah, and there's nothing we can do because the structure is not conducive to turn it into a gallery of sort, right? So what we have done here is basically to reinvent, and I think this is the second floor of this building, the Ma building. We've converted it what we call to the word layar. Layar is Laman Karya, yeah, and IIUM, you call it Larium, a kind of a place where we are now putting art pieces from the various embassies around Malaysia. Yeah, we've asked for donations, and I think right now we've got about 50 donations, and we will build this as a kind of a demonstration that this university has got these values that we are also cherishing at the same time. Normally we used to have flags to demonstrate the population of the university, but flags I think is a little bit difficult to manage because 120 flags, you need to put it up and bring it down. It's not practical. So we are using this what we call a art gallery for these purposes. Yeah. So if you have any pieces of art that we think is nice, you can always recommend it to us, and we see where we can put them. So this is being upgraded from time to time, so that at the end of the day, this will be a place where we can have a kind of a santai discussion, appreciating the art and culture, and having discourse and discussion, and also having exhibition at the same time, right? So it gives us another way of looking at how we want to create values among ourselves. Right? We have got Akar Budi. I think some of you may not know, but this is a place where it is at Batu 11, where students and staff every day, I was told, come and do operational work with the community. One, I know that they are teaching the community how to actually sew bags, and these bags can then be sold so that it can be general income to them. And I think the bags are really very, very, what you call, what is the word? Very fashionable, and also, I kind of like it, the design and so on and so forth. So we want to make this bag to be the merchandise of the university after a while, so that it can come from our own students and our own staff, right? We are trying to build museums at East-Tech. Ikraku is somewhere near Kuantan, and also Kait. Kait, I know they've got a lot of materials as far as buildings and and artifacts is concerned. Maybe we can turn that into museum. So what I'm trying to say here, basically, this university then will be, quote unquote, a place where tourists can come in and also benefit from what we have done. Understand what we have actually given to the university, and understand also how we connect with other cultures around the world. Yeah, we so happen, alhamdulillah, that our constitutional head, Her Majesty, is very, very into culture, and she is also supporting us in trying to make culture as one of the pillars of this university in terms of cultural intelligence. Apart from that, I think when we talk about pieces of art, we also look at lifestyles. Just last Sunday, I'm very honored to have given a key to a household when the house is almost run down. Yeah, so they raised about 60,000, and they gave the house to this single mother with 2 children, and now they've got a better way of surviving in their life. And I think these are the things that is part and parcel of these values that we talked about. Yeah. So More recently, I think we have been, the university has been inducted into Yayasan My SDG as a foundation. And this Yayasan actually is a funding mechanism. So if you have anything that you want to do and you want to get funds, then you can go to the Yayasan and make sure that the things that we do can get funded if it is within the lines of culture and art and also sustainability. So this is another piece that I think we need to think about, so that when we walk through the university, we find that these are part and parcel of the lessons and part and parcel of the, what do you call, contribution that we've given to the university as such. And humanity, I think we have got more than enough to talk about. Yeah, I would want to talk about Sejahtera, a place where we picked up some a year ago. Now I think the Sejahtera is well embedded in the front of the gate. These people are now living in a lifestyle which is better than we found them. Yeah, their houses are cleaner now. They have got a systematic way of controlling garbage and so on and so forth, and something that I think we are very proud to actually move on them for. In Kuantan, when I was in Kuantan, I met this group of people called Committed. They actually work with drug addicts from womb to tomb, and again, I am very, very delighted to find out that they have been working for this for the last 21 years. Drug addiction is not easy, but they have sustained it for 21 years. And I think our kuliah, particularly in Kuantan, are trying to work with them so that we can also benefit from what they've done in the context of the knowledge that we learn from them, and also the knowledge that we can give them. Yeah. So this is about saving humanities in the issues which is very important. Autism is one of the issues that they are working in Kuantan. And certainly the elderly rumah orang tua, I think in Dungun, and there's one in Kota Baru, Kuala Baru. Again, a piece of work that we want to concentrate and make sure that the elderly are looked after. We've got gender dysphoria. I'm sure you know about this, the Maknya. This is a case of a Maknya. We are sponsoring him for Tabung Haji. For pilgrimage, yeah, in the year 2020, because he has done well, and say now you go for Hajj, and then he will come back to be, quote unquote, the real person that he was. All these, I think, are something which is really very unique to IIUM. The other universities are just learning to do this. We've identified other places, Sungai Balang, Kampung Alobatu, Jabur. All these are areas later on that could be moved into, as we have moved in the idea of Desa Sejahtera or the villages that we've been working on. ISTEC has got another program on Muslim minorities and migrants. This is an area I think that we need also to focus on. We have done one for the Palestinian, and very recent one, I think we've talked about the Uyghur, and I think it went well. Yeah. I thought it was sensitive, but it wasn't sensitive at all. So we are able to bring up some of these issues that is forgotten by the world over because of the kind of turmoil that we're facing today. And the university has got its own way of broadcasting it as far as minorities is concerned. Yeah. We have got our own community response team. This is the one that we see when we talk about floods and so on and so forth. Well, what is important, I think all these are practical things that we work on the ground. Yeah, you have to be there, and about the experiential learning that I will talk to you about. You have to be there. You need to understand what's going on. Yeah, and beyond just the textbook stuff, or beyond just within the campus, and how we actually make this into an enriching experience for all of us. And last but not least is, of course, the knowledge. I think this one, I don't have to talk very much about it. Yeah, we've got this Murabi talk, and I think this is Professor Jackie Ying, a Chinese Muslim from Singapore, gave a talk, and I think it was very, very also enlightening, because she's one of the experts on nanotechnology, if I'm not mistaken, and yet she talk about science the way Muslims should talk about. Yeah? We are now trying to rework the Al-Ghazali Walk and turn it into an observatory. In other words, at the end of the day, we want to make it into a place where we can learn. We can learn about the surrounding, and also about what you call astrology, and so on and so on and so forth. Astronomy, sorry, not astrology. We are now working on this Malay culture and wisdom. It's part of ISTEC, and our brother in Kuliah of Health Science has done very well. How do you do this? Again, ISTEC has created what we call the ISTEC World Professorial Lecture. I think the German ambassador has just delivered one last week. I think the next one will be the former Prime Minister of Japan. He will deliver. So these are platforms that we can tell the world that the university is interested by calling all these people who are intellectually or globally relevant as far as that's concerned. So we have got the Sejahtera program leadership, like the one that we do with you, and we're collecting many other resources into this knowledge management or knowledge repository, so that we have got a database of our own. And I think all these things will create its own database, a tacit database that belongs to the university, right? And Alhamdulillah, also I want to share with you, over the last 2 years, we have managed to publish books and chapters in the, what you call, in the reputable publishers. Yeah, let me take this one. One is this one here, The Promise of Higher Education. We've got a chapter here, is by Springer. And this one, Sustainable Development, which is out now, is also produced by Cambridge. Yeah. So we've got other Macmillan, Palgrave. In other words, the things that we do in university, we get invited to write. You know, in other words, there are people who are watching us. We get invitation to write chapters for international publishing. I think that's what we want. IIUM Press is okay, but I think we want to move beyond IIUM Press if we want to actually impress the world that we are of world standards in terms of publication. Yeah, I want to talk about this a little bit. The community appraisal system post-pandemic. This is what I talk about when I talk about redesigning the university. What is it that we want to redesign? We want to have a different way of assessing university. And this is what I think being worked on with 3 or 4 universities, UTM, UPM, UTM, and also UNIMEP, I think. Yeah? And we support from KPT with some funds. And hopefully by the middle of this year, we will have the structure of what a new university looks like. Not the ranking, not the rating, but something that we think it is very much in line of what IIUM is and going to be in the context of UNGAS, in the context of USRA in action, and the things that we talk as far as SAF is concerned. So these are the general sort of picture of where we want to take the university moving to 2023. And like I say, all these tick something that we have done work on. So in other words, it is an ongoing thing. It's a question of just pushing it forward and making it real as far as 2020, 2023 is concerned. I would just want to show you, share with you the vision and the mission of the university. It is done by Brother Ihsan. Yeah? We will put this on the directory board of the university. So around the university, you'll find this artwork on the directory board. As you pass the university, you are reminded always what is the university. world that we are moving into, a very turbulent world, and we need to have this vision and diversity plugged into that turbulent world. To me, it's almost like a rocket that we want to launch at the 20th anniversary. What, at the end of the day, what it says basically is about connecting the dots. All these things that we have talked about, you want to connect the dots, and the connecting the dots is what I want to end up with. Why is connecting the dots important? Okay. Boleh matikan suara. Why is connecting the dots important? I think we have talked about this, but I think connecting the dots is a way forward as far as realizing some of the things that we want to do. Now, now, this information that we've got, the one that I gave you, basically, just this information that you will probably get anywhere and everywhere. All right, but that is not good enough. You want to connect the dot. In other words, what are the things that we want to think about when we data mau lah. Okay. What are the things that we want to think about when we talk about this? Connecting the dots. In other words, some of this information that we've got, we want to make sure that they are sort of in sync with one another. They are actually creating new knowledge by connecting to one another. So this is the knowledge part. When we talk about flagship, it is about this generally. How do you connect with the information that you've got from different kuliah, different mahala, different information, so that that information becomes another contributing sort of project, if you will, yeah, and that will be a way to move forward. But what is more important to me when we want to connect the dot is basically to get this experience. I cannot but to talk about this experience. This experience, in a sense, will create you, or bring you out of the sort of box that you are in. Yeah. So in other, this is why we keep on talking about engagement. We're talking about working with the community. We're talking about moving out of the university, because this is the experience that I think is very, very important for us to have. If you have the knowledge, but you are not able to actually translate it into an experience, then I think you will remain boxed in with the knowledge you've got, and you are not able to contribute as much as you want to, because you are still boxed in. So to liberate or to get away from the system that is putting us in, as far as the campus is concerned, is what we are trying to do. That's why when you talk about Usrah in action, it's all about that. Now, how do you experience this, and how do you make it work? How do you convert it into something that is benefiting from other people? So this experience is an important element as far as that's concerned. Now, if you do this well, then suddenly you find that there is a way of looking at it. You know, with some experience, you begin to see there are a few things that you need to focus on. You don't have to focus on many things. And this is what we call the strategic thinking. Yeah? Out of the so many knowledge or points that you want to connect, in this case, you probably need to connect 3 or 4. And you can already get out of the, what you call the box that we are talking about, right? And this is what we call the strategic thinking, as far as connecting the dots is concerned. And finally, I think you will then be able to intuitively understand. Yeah, here it will be a very clear shortcut. You don't have to go through all the rigmaroles of other people are going, because there is some sort of a intuition. Some people will call it wisdom, you know, and to know that, yeah, you can move from one point to another very, very quickly, right? And this is why I thought connecting the dots is one of the experiences that all of us must go through. I think people like Steve Jobs talks about connecting the dots all the time. In other words, this is where new idea, fresh ideas, new strategy, new tactics, or new ways of looking at things becomes an important thing. But if you remain boxed in the way that we are doing mostly now, then you will not be able to experience. Many countries that have moved out, Taiwan, Korea, it's because of the experience. They are able to actually move out from the environment, taking new experiences and translating that into something which is important. So as we talk about the 40th anniversary and the 40 project, the question is, how do you link this to with one another? You know, how can you make these two projects or three projects into one so that it has a bigger impact, it has a bigger meaning, and sometimes it has also a new creative value into it. I think people like Dr. Faris will know that each time we start with a project, we start with a small project and we end up with a big one, because there is this whole idea of strategic thinking adding on to the project to make it more sort of novel, and also to make it more meaningful as far as reaching is concerned. So be mindful about how do you connect the dots, be mindful of the strategy that you want to adopt, and be mindful of the kind of target that you are looking at that will take you out from the realm that you are being boxed in as far as that is concerned. So in connecting the dot from our point of view, we need to now start talking about what is it that we want to connect as far as IIM is concerned, together with the 40th anniversary and the 40 project. All right, you want to connect in such a way, as I've mentioned, that suddenly when you connect, the university become a distinctive university. Yeah, by connecting, we get the university to be in a different role altogether. For example, here probably the golden egg is what we are all about. Once you start connecting with the various projects or the various people working around you. Sometimes it can be very, very unique, just like a thumbprint. All right, and I have worked out, I think if you go to the roadmap, what are the 15 distinctive things about IIM, beginning from our vision and mission right down to what we are trying to do today in trying to lead the world. Yeah, so that distinctive differences is what we want to bring out when you try to connect the dots. And of course, it has to be alive. Yeah, it has to be a balance. It cannot be, you know, dead and one-sided. I think this balancing and making it alive in terms of meaning to other people is something which is important. And if you do that, then you should be able to jump out of whatever you are in, is in the case, as we mentioned just now, in terms of intuition or in terms of strategic thinking and so on and so forth. So the 40th anniversary, from my point of view, is how to harness our energy, how to harness our idea, and how to harness the kind of work that we do together so that IIM will lead the world in this particular context. I want to end up by summarizing again, the 4 elements of Khalifah, Amanah, Iqra, and Rahmatan lil Alamin. These are translated into what it means to us. Once this, in its own sort of what do you call, together, all right, not individual but together as khair. And this is where I think we want to create what we see as leading the world, something which is on the ground, something that has impact, not just numbers. And also at the end of the day, try to answer this question that this guy was asking me 4 years ago, right? And we can demonstrate this, I think, hopefully, by investing in ourselves, investing in the talent that I talked to you earlier, right? How do you make this happen so that at the end of the day, you will look at the university as something that we can actually create by balancing things together. Yeah? In other, all parts of universities are useful. There's no part of the university is not useful, but how do you connect it? I think the issue, and this is where the Sejahtera academic framework comes into being, right? And if you can do that, then you'll be able to create another sort of piece of activity that all of us will find this to be something that is beneficial to us. Yeah? So I want to just to summarize this. When we talk about the 40th anniversary, you already begin to see when we start in 1983, yeah, and by the time we finish 2023, look at the number of projects. Yeah, we have got here 4, we have got here 4, we've got here 3. But by the time we arrive at 2013, particularly when you talk about many of the things that you've got here, we've got more than 14 activities, right? That we can work together and make it happen. And then this is the one that's going to transform the university. And this transformation is now, these are some of the things that I talked to you about. The one in bold, yeah, we've taken out because we have not worked into it. We want to now bring this into reality when we talk about the 40th anniversary. How do you do that? I think we have already talked about it in greater details. But last but not least, I think is the enabling key policies and structures. How do you make this policy work? And this is where I think the next activity will come in. This is where I think we will need your feedback. What are the things that works? What are the things that do not work? Particularly in trying to manage a university, right? So I've asked my colleague to list out what are the things that they think is important. And I think what you call academic and internationalization talks about flexible learning, promoting knowledge, comprehensive academic management, value-based. Yeah? All this I think needs to be worked out into greater detail, but these are hopefully the big policy changes that we will create to fit into what the 40th anniversary is all about. Yeah? Student development, we are talking about the Mala policy. Mala is going to be quote unquote, from my point of view, another kuliah where people actually work and also practice what they learn, rather than just a place to sleep and a place to rest. There is also a learning process in it. Yeah? There's community engagement and so on and so forth that has been worked out. In terms of research, we talk about technology transfer. We talk about transformation of research institutes. Yeah? And these are the areas that I was talking to you about, where we can actually move and create 2 or 3 activities and combine to make it more reliable as far as the world is concerned. In terms of development, certainly there's a lot of things to do, yeah, in terms of hygiene, in terms of health, the environment, back to the bi'ah, and we talk about the garden that we talked about earlier, yeah, and finally, all these activities of renovation. I think you know that the university is not in a good state as far as development is concerned. How do you actually make this work? And last but not least, I think these are the 2 major things in terms of human resource and also financing. Yeah, Puan Fazida and Puan Naima, we're going to work on some of these things. These are just rough ideas at the moment in time. The next time we will go into what is important in trying to make this a new policy for the university. So if I were to summarize again, you can see the 40 ideas in the year 2023, 2022. Most of these are taken up. These are the Khalifa activity, these are the Amanah activity, these are the Iqra activity, between 4 or 5 activities, but the most are the impact with the Rahmatan lil Alamin, as I've mentioned to you, compared to what we have done previously. This is not to say that this is not important. This is very important, because if we don't establish IUM, all these things will not happen. So we look at this as a kind of a collective, complementary activities that moves the university forward. But certainly moving forward will be the key thing that we want to work at. So I would like to summarize. If I were to summarize, we take here as the total picture to make IUM a great place to be. For the last 1 decade, we have 4 programs. The next 2nd decade, 4. The other third decade is 3. And the last, between now to February to this month, we've got 16 of these projects that I think we can work on. So what is next certainly is quite clear. We want to work on the policies. Yeah? We want to make sure that IUM is centralized as far as the global picture is concerned, right? And going back to the key policy changes and the things that I've outlined to you in a very cursory way. This needs to be worked on a little bit more. Okay, so thank you very much for all of all your contribution. I think this is not a one-man job or one group people. I think that everybody in the university is contributing to this, some more than others, of course. But really, I think without the university as a community coming together, we will not arrive at this particular point. I just want to bring you into another apa ni? This is something that I learned recently. It is called Atlas of Muslim Futures. Yeah? If you key onto this, you will get this kind of map. And this map will tell us what is happening around the world. This is Europe, this is Asia. So Malaysia is somewhere here. And I'm hoping that all the projects that we have got when we go into the 40th anniversary could be put into this map of the futures, right? In other words, when you click this sort of point here, we can see exactly what is happening at that location. I think we've already got this in our website. The question of just transferring this into this map. Once you transfer this map, then we are actually very much contextualized into what the world is all about, given IIM contribution. Yeah, you can try and log on to this Atlas of Muslim Futures, and these are the bigger version of it. Every part of Europe, misalnya, these are stories that relates to us, Muslim particularly, doesn't matter where. Yeah, macam here Netherlands, you have 11 stories. Germany have 3 stories, and so on and so forth. And I hope that we can also contribute to this, so that we at IIM also becomes the main contributor to some of this news worldwide. And they cover quite a lot of things. They cover in the context of what you call the geopolitical thing. They cover in the context of religion and things that relate to our life. Science, industry, or technology, yeah? And also the what you call the environment, as well as the technology that we are going into. So this I think is a good piece of work that we need to put and assemble the things that we have done in the 40th anniversary into this map, and inshallah we will then have a portal into the world as we move on to the year 2023. I think that's about all. So thank you very much for your kind attention. I hope this gives you a kind of a cursory way. What is it that we need to do? What is it that we need to think about? How do you connect with one another? And finally, how do you actually deposit it into a portal of this nature, so that we can be part and parcel of the world that we think we belong to. So thank you very much, Atira. I stop there. Maybe if there are questions, we can deal with it. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Tan Sri, for the excellent sharing. So there you go. We are connecting the dots for IIM 40th anniversary. And also in this practice of reckoning, it's interesting to understand and that we can do and already did a lot of effort in sustaining the 4 key areas from our 7 missions, which is the nature, art and culture, humanity, and also knowledge. But now I am sure that there are many among us with questions and even ideas popping out after listening to the presentation. So let yourself be here at the Q&A or chat section, and we will assist you by reading the feedback.
Yes,
so I have
please.
one translate from the YouTube comments. It's from Madam Sabariah Bakri from Selpek. So she's asking about the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has affected our community, students and staff. And she would like to know what is further of your idea or your strategy to connect the university and community in project with bigger meaning and impact.
Yes, this COVID-19 is actually a bigger story than we think it is. I mean, it is not about just getting booster, putting masks and so on. Those are important, but I think it's changing our lifestyle. I think changing of our lifestyle is the one that I think we need to focus on. What is it that we are now trying to create for the future? As a university, if we were to educate our young ones, what is it that we need to tell them? I think that's why when I talk about redefining the university, we need to look at different things. Now, for example, we are talking about life, not just livelihood. Now we go to university, it's all about livelihood. Do I get a job? Is a job good enough for me? And things like that, which is important. But you get a job, but you do not know how to organize your life, I think it will not work also. So there are many things that I think needs to be shifted and go back to the purpose of education. And that's why I brought in the word humanity in. Right now, when you talk about education, humanity is not part of education. In fact, education now is about me and my survival. Yeah, if I can survive on my own, it doesn't matter what happened to the rest of it. And this is, to me, not an Islamic value as such. The Prophet always reminds us, that you must tend to your neighbors and things like that. But we are not doing that. And our education is not for that purpose. Education is about me and my successes. And after that, the rest does not matter. So when we talk about COVID, that is a bigger picture that all of us are to work out. What is life at the end of the day? Yeah. How do you measure success? Is it from the big acquisition that we have, or is it just a simple way of doing things, but it is well shared with other people? I mean, most of the criticism now, for example, under the pandemic, there are more millionaires now. There are more millionaires during the pandemic. People are making money out of somebody else's miseries. But how do they share this? Yeah, for example, the rubber glove industry already being marked down by US as a company that do not look after their own workers. All right, and this is something that we think has something to do with values. Where are the values when we talked about this? That I think is a bigger picture when we want to think about it. It's not just about. I mean, now of course. The story is about just whether you have got your booster, whether you put your mask, and that's okay. But I think over the long run, how do you manage life? I think that's the bigger picture. And this is where I think IIUM wants to be there. When we talk about how do we manage life, we want to be there to articulate this. And alhamdulillah, as I mentioned to you about the chapters that we are asked to write, I think we've just had another chapter being accepted by Springer today. That they give almost, almost how do they say this chapter has a lot of things to offer for the future. This is what I want the university to think about, that we are a leader and we are pushing some boundaries that other people might have thought of it or might not have thought about it, but we are there in trying to make life more than just what we learned in the last few decades. So I don't know whether I'm answering your question, but that's a bigger question from my point of view.
Thank you, Tan Sri. So apparently, Madam Sabaria has a great video. She stated in the comment section.
Oh.
Is there any other questions? And Tan Sri, we have anonymous here in the Q&A chat. So actually, this person is asking for your support or motivation as he or she has been invited to write a book chapter in a publisher that you mentioned previously. But he feels like his contribution in writing a book chapter is not regarded as par on and not being supported as par on and writing a paper published in high-ranking journal. So could you give some support to this writing of book chapter?
I think we are quite clear in IIUM, these high-ranking journals and stuff like that does not mean much to us. I mean, I would not give, bigger consideration than it. I think the whole idea, if you're publishing a work and the work is original and the work creates some new ideas, it could be in a local journal, that doesn't really matter. But what is the impact of that article, I think is more important rather than whether it's a high impact journal. I mean, it's a high impact journal, which is fine. But when you ask them, what is the impact on the ground? If they can answer that question, I'm okay. But if there's no impact on the ground, you may have got an impact of 10. But what is the impact on the ground? There's no impact on the ground, then I will not consider that as something which is meaningful. I mean, all this, I think we need to basically adjust to what we think is right. Our problem is that we're adjusting to other people's notion. You know, that's why we have this ranking business. Somebody must tell you are good, then you say you are good. You are not able to tell that you are good based on what you have done. Why do you need somebody else to tell you whether you are good or not? You know, I think this university needs to decide if we want to do something, what is it that we want to look at? For example, when I talk about the living lab, okay, the living lab is something that is almost like a classroom that people can go there and learn hands-on. If we can do that, I think that has a lot more meaning than any other thing that I can imagine, because places of this nature, when you go into it, you find that it multiplies the kind of knowledge that you actually produce by interacting with your environment. And that, I think, is not the mainstay of education today. You know, my time, you need to dissect a frog. But why do you need to dissect a frog when you know you can open a book and you can see what the frog looks like? Why do you need to do that? But you want to do something else that is not contained in books. It's not contained in traditional materials. And those are the things that I think we need to think about. Of course, it's difficult. I think that the issue is when it gets tough, most people give up. I mean, for example, when we talk about this APA thing, yeah, when we told the staff, look, you create whatever you want to do and tell us how to evaluate it. And most of them say it's difficult. Let's go to the KPIs, you know, because it's easier. So I think the intellectual rigor that needs to be put in place is what we are now trying to look. That's why when I talk about the academic culture, this is what I'm trying to say. Where is the academic rigor actually you want to put in, so that at the end of the day, you're producing something which is exceptionally different from what you've got. Publishing is fine, yeah. But now, if I just were to remind you, people do not talk about publish or perish anymore. People talk about do or die, yeah. In other words, you've got this knowledge. If you don't do something with it, then you're going to die. Publish and perish, these are the old way of looking at it. Now, I say, how do you actually put this into perspective, and how do you make this work? So all this, I think we need to reconstruct. You don't take this from somebody else's and say, I'm not doing this because somebody says, you know, this is not the way to do it. I think we have to have our own way of looking at this and redefine it, and then we move from that. This is what we are trying to do with the communiversity appraisal system, which I hope we will be able to launch it by the middle of this year. It's a big risk, but I think it is worth the risk taking.
Okay, thank you, Tan Sri. And the questions from Madam Mazlina Mustafa. She's asking, Tan Sri, what are your experience with IIUM? Based on your experience with IIUM, what are the challenges you face in connecting the dots?
Well, basically, I think like I say, my experience is quite different in the sense that I'm a science student. You know, all the rectors before me are non-science, if I were to put it that way. Yeah. So my way of thinking may be slightly different, and also I am what you call from outside. If I'm from the outside, I see many things that you all probably take for granted, right? I give you one simple example. When I came in and I saw this word rectory, I was wondering, what is this rectory all about? Because in Europe, they use rectorate rather than rectory. So when I open up the dictionary and the rectory says a house of a Catholic priest, well, this whole building then was known as a rectory. Now, I'm not going to be a Catholic priest, So it gives me another view of looking at things from a different thing, because I am not from the inside. So that is quote unquote, I hope, my contribution to look at things from a different perspective. Sometimes it's acceptable, sometimes it's not acceptable. But certainly this university has got tremendous thing to offer. I would say that again. I thought I finished out with USM as an apex university, but this university has a tremendous things to offer. But we need to connect the dots. Connecting the dots is what we are trying to do today when we talk about the integration of knowledge. But that integration of knowledge is not just about revealed knowledge and reason. It's also about science and arts. It's also about dominant knowledge and indigenous knowledge. It's about practical knowledge and theoretical knowledge. All this, I think, needs to be put into kind of I don't know how, but once you think about this, what else that you need to do and to connect the knowledge so that people can understand it in its totality. So I don't know, but I find it is very challenging, and challenges is what I look for in an academic world. Otherwise, you'll be very boring, sit down and goyang kaki, nothing to do. But we need to look for these challenges and make sure that these challenges are the one that will be important for moving ahead, particularly in the Islamic world. There's so many things now when we talk about Islam in the complex world that we see today. Who is talking about this? Who is taking the lead on this? I mean, that's why when I talk about climate change and global warming, I'm very happy, because there's no one spokesperson that talks about climate change and global warming from the Islamic world. And the Islamic world is not about climate change and global warming. They are rich countries, but they are not living that standard. And we understand that these are also part of creation of God, and God also tells us that you don't create mischief on this earth. But are we doing that? Those are very small questions that I think we need to open our minds to and find some solutions to them. The younger generations, I think, are endowed with this, because the older generations may be too complacent, I guess, because we are used to a kind of life that wasn't as hurried as yours. We still have different ways of looking at it, but the younger generations need to take this on and move on. When I do my sustainable development in USM, the one that moves this forward are the students, not the staff. The staff says sustainable development is not important. I'm already a professor. Why do I need to talk about sustainable development? But the students say, this is my future. If I don't do this, then my future will probably be not put right. And they are the one who pushes the agenda. So I think the students are the one that needs to come up with ideas, and sometimes you need to work very hard on this, because those ideas are probably not easy ideas, as you move forward. But I have a lot of confidence that this university will make it as we move along, inshallah, and understand where our niche will be as you create the project, the 40 projects that we talk about, inshallah, in the year 2023. Any other question?
Okay, I'll be taking one more questions if there's any. And in the meantime, yes, Tan Sri, I think it's very unique that an Islamic university coming up with climate change, addressing climate change and sustainable development, that is what makes us different from other universities, and being to leading the way for that. So there's just a remark from Dr. Zaliha Kasim that she is concerned about the green areas plant found on Kuantan campus, and really hope that we can conserve them in an ecologically sustainable approach. So that's from her. And okay.
But this ecology thing, Atira, is very important. I think when we come to the university, the first of all that takes your mind away is a building. A building is so majestic, that you forget that the greenery is as important. So if you don't bring this garden of knowledge into the reality of the university, then you're going to miss this ecological part that we talked about. Yeah. So I think we need to balance these two together and get the best out of it.
Yes, that's right. So, okay, if there's no more questions, I think, ladies and gentlemen, at the interest of time, we will wrap up, and we have come to the end of the first leadership series 2022. There are more yet to come, inshallah. Thank you to all participants and Tan Sri Zul for making your time today. So, Tan Sri, would you like to add any final remark before we close?
Well, I think in 2022 we are going to fly. Meaning to say, we cannot walk like walking in the park. We really need to move fast. Not only the environment is changing very fast, but also I think we need to come to terms with what we want to do. And the faster we move, the better it is for us. So in other words, coming together, working together, discussing issues of interest, I think is my priority. You know, of course, there are some people who actually wants to be on their own. We will respect that, but as long as they don't quote unquote hinder other people who wants to move forward, that's fine with me. But certainly the promise of this university, just like that guy who asked me the question, what we have done for them, I think we need to provide them with the answer. This is what we have provided for you, and this is how it's going to be happening. I think it's only our duty to do that. And plus, we have gained so much. I've gained so much from this university, and I need to pay back. Yeah, berbudi, orang Melayu kata berbudi, ya, membalas budi is part and parcel of the intellectual characteristic of people who understand what knowledge is all about. So you just don't get things for yourself and then you run away. You need to how to redistribute and make other people also experience the same thing that you have got. Alhamdulillah. So on that note, I look forward to your communication. If there are questions that you want to ask, my email is always there. You can always send it to me. Inshallah, we will try and get a response to it. So thank you, Atira.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Inshallah, let us move forward together for the betterment of the university. And with that, we bid goodbye for now until we meet again in next session. But before we go offline, let us recite the Tasbih Kafarah and Surah Al-Asr. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Thank you, Tan Sri. So on behalf of the
right, Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Tan Sri.
Okay. Sounds familiar, that voice.
This session is available for replay at MSD Competency Development YouTube channel. Yeah. And thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Take care.